네, 안녕하세요 여러분. 잘 들리시죠? 뉴스가 굉장히 많이 나왔습니다. 한번 정리해서 보도록 하죠. 일단은 CEO가 바뀌었습니다. 피터 제프맨이 아이온큐의 회장 역할은 계속 하는데 DMI 쪽 부회장이 아이온큐의 CEO로 오게 됐네요. 이게 어떤 의미인지는 좀 공부를 해봐야 될 것 같은데, 일단 잠깐만요. 방송 공유를 좀 드리고요. 네, 일단 CEO가 변경이 된 것 같고요. 다음으로 실적 자체를 보면은 연간 매출이 4,300만 달러를 돌파를 했습니다. 그래서 작년 대비 거의 100% 성장을 했고, 지난 분기 거를 봐야 제가 평가를 할 수 있을 것 같아요. 네, 연간 예상 매출을 3,850에서 4,250을 생각을 했는데 예상 매출은 돌파를 했네요. 그리고 연간 예약액이 7,500에서 9,500을 예상했는데 9,560만으로 둘 다 이제 예상치를 초과를 했는데, EPS가 어떻게 나왔는지 잠깐 보겠습니다. 지금 볼륨이 크지 않으세요? 제 나가는 볼륨은 괜찮은 걸로 나오는데, 네, 그리고 지금 주가가 떨어지는 이유 중에 하나가 유상증자를 발표를 했네요. 그래서 5억 불, 네, 5억, 최대 5억 불까지 유상증자 할 수 있는 계약을 체결했다고 해요. 그래서 ATM 프로그램이 뭐냐면은 어, 딱 발행을 해서 한 번에 내보내는 게 아니라 리게티랑 디브랑 퀀텀 컴퓨팅 했던 것처럼 시가에 조금씩 주식을 풀어내는 거를 의미를 하는데요. 요거는 아마도 ID 퀀티크라는 회사를 인수하기 위해서 자금을 마련하는 거겠죠. 근데 얼마까지 할지는 안 적혀 있고 최대 5억 달러까지 공모 판매를 할 수 있도록 하겠다. 근데 지금 딱 4% 떨어지는 거 보니까 ID 퀀티크를 살려면은 전체 주식이 한 4% 정도 희석이 돼야 된다고 어제 제가 분석을 해드렸잖아요. 그래서 딱 그 정도만 지금 시장은 보고 있는 것 같네요. 이게 CEO 바뀐 거는 어떤 방향성인지 잘 모르겠는데요. 이 사람이 원래 아이온큐랑 같이 합쳐져서 성장했던 스펙 합병이라고 그러죠. 백지수표 회사랑 합병을 하면서 우회 성장을 하게 되는데, 그 회사의 회장인 해리 유는 지금 아이온큐의 이사회 부의장인데, 이 사람도 이사회에 있다가 CEO가 됐다는 거는 그러게요. 인수합병이 가까웠다는 신호로 보이기도 하네요. 이 사람은 DMI 그룹의 CEO이죠. 해리유는 회장이고, 그래서 아마 인수합병을 준비하는 단계가 아닌가 싶거든요. 이 사람은 여러 가지 회사들을 상장하는 데 중요한 역할을 했죠. 플래넷이나 다른 회사들. 그래서 돈을 끌어오는 거에 대단히 능력이 있는 사람인데, 피터 제프맨은 기술자이면서 경영 능력을 가진 사람이었는데, 이 사람은 이제 아예 돈의 전문가이기 때문에 그러게요. 이거는 인수합병이 좀 가까워졌다는 신호로 저는 해석을 해야 될 것 같네요. 뭐 인수합병 되면서 우리는 프리미엄 받고 나가는 것도 저는 뭐 제가 완전히 바라는 엔딩은 아니지만 하나의 괜찮은 시나리오 마무리가 아닐까 생각을 하고 있습니다. 자, 어쨌거나 실적을 좀 더 보면은 피터 제프맨은 CEO는 내려놓는데 이사회 의장은 계속한다는 것 같네요. 양자 네트워킹 관련된 세계 주요 네트워킹 계약을 체결했다. 아이디 퀀티크 통제 인수 얘기를 했네요. 아이디 퀀티크 인수를 할 거다라고 얘기를 했고, 이걸 위해서 지금 유상증자를 준비하고 있는 것 같습니다. 그래서 지난 분기 매출이 1170만 달러면은 예상치 매출이 상단이 1110만 달러였기 때문에 매출은 예상치를 상회를 했고, 전체 연도 매출도 상회를 했고, 뭐 수주도 상회를 했고요. 현금성 자산이 3억 6천 30만 달러, 3억 6천 30만 달러면 3억 8천만이었는데 별로 안 썼네요. 현금 소진 속도가 굉장히 많이 늦춰진 것 같습니다. 순손실이 2억 2백만 달러, 순실이 3분기 대비는 많이 커졌네요. 전체 연도 순손실은 3억 3천만 달러였고, 전망보다는 좋았다. 어쨌거나 아직은 적자가 굉장히 큰 기업이다. 새로 나온 얘기가 뭐가 있나 보면은 아이디 퀀티크 인수하기로 최종 합의했다. 그래서 SK텔레콤과 전략적 파트너십을 맺을 것으로 예상한다. 니콜로 디 마시를 CEO로 임명을 했고, 피터 제프맨은 이사회의 이사장으로 활동을 계속한다. 그리고 가브리엘레 톨레다노를 이사회에 임명했다. 이 사람은 누군가 한번 봐볼까요? 여성이시네요. 이분 같은 경우는 테슬라 출신이네요. 테슬라, EA, 마이크로소프트, 오라클에서 근무를 했던 사람이고, 현재는 기술 자문 회사인 키스톤 테크 스트래티지의 최고 운영 책임자다. 테슬라에서도 일을 했던 사람이고, 약간 전략 쪽을 담당할 사람으로 보이네요. 또 해리우가 이사회에서 나오네요. 해리우가 나오고 더 젊은 해리우가 DMI 그룹의 이제 회장인데, 더 젊은 DMI 그룹의 CEO가 이사회에 들어가면서 아이온큐 CEO가 된 거죠. 굉장히 큰 변화가 있었네요. 그리고 또 어떤 게 있었는가? 새로운 특허 5개 발행을 했고, 추가 주식 발행을 준비하고 있다. 이건 이제 아이디 퀀티크 인수를 위해서 하는 거겠죠? 해리우 지분은 아직 알 수가 없습니다. 어떻게 된 건지. 인사병 되는 게 뭐 글쎄요, 완전히 최악 엔딩은 아니라고 생각합니다. 저는 어쨌거나 지금 가격의 한 4, 50% 정도 프리미엄을 준다고 하면은 한 50불 정도에 넘어갈 수도 있겠죠. 그러면 뭐 물리는 사람 없이 완전히 마무리가 될 수도 있을 것 같고, 어쨌거나 이 사람이 어떻게 할지는 좀 지켜봐야 될 것 같네요. 이 사람 이제 돈을 다루는 전문가이기 때문에 과연 그러게요. 왜 이 사람을 CEO로 앉혔을까? 그거를 오늘 어닝콜에서 많이 물어볼 것 같은데 한번 힌트를 얻어봐야겠죠. 어쨌거나 실적 자체는 잘 나왔기 때문에 앞으로 잘 할 수 있을지를 좀 지켜봐야 될 것 같습니다. CEO는 처음 바뀌었죠. CEO가 자주 바뀐 게 아니고요. 네, 파실 분들은 뭐 지금 파셔도 되겠죠. 뭐 그거는 우리가 알아서 판단하는 거기 때문에. 근데 왜 이 사람이 CEO로 왔을까? 그거를 좀 네, 오늘 힌트를 얻어봐야 될 것 같습니다. 니콜로 디마시라는 사람은 DMI 그룹의 CEO로 예전에 아이온큐 상장했을 때부터 이사회에 있었던 사람이거든요. 그래서 챕프먼이 왜 나왔을까? 그게 좀 궁금하네요, 저는. EPS를 잠깐 보면 아마 미스는 아닐 것 같아요. 지금 예상보다 적게 손실이 났다고 했기 때문에 조금 더 많이 나왔네요. 지금 매출은 예측치를 초과 달성했는데 예상 매출이 1056만이었는데 실제로는 1240만 매출을 냈고 주당 순이익은 마이너스 0.217 달러를 예상을 했는데 마이너스 0.24. 그래서 뭐 아무래도 인력도 많이 늘어났고 뭐 R&D 투자를 무겁게 하고 있기 때문에 EPS는 하회를 하면서 좀 혼조된 결과를 줬고요. 지금 애프터정에서 떨어지는 건 아무래도 CEO 변경이랑 유상증자, ID 퀀티크 인수하기 위한 자금 마련 때문에 주가가 희석될 수도 있어서 그래서 지금 주가가 떨어지고 있는 것 같습니다. 제 생각도 그렇습니다. CEO가 예전에는 회사 피러저프맨 CEO의 이력을 우리가 좀 생각을 해봐야 되는데 그 사람은 예전부터 자기가 회사를 만들어서 키워서 엑시트하는 거에 전문가였거든요. 제가 예전부터 말씀을 드렸는데 그래서 아마 아이온큐를 지금 한 5년 6년 동안 근무를 했죠. 그래서 덩치를 불리고 기술력을 발전시키는데 좀 최적화된 전문가였고 이 사람의 이력을 조금 찾아볼 필요가 있는데 제가 알기로는 돈 전문가, 벤처 캐피탈리스트로 알고 있거든요. 그래서 아마 요거는 인수합병을 위한 하나의 단계가 아닌가 그렇게 좀 생각이 됩니다. 챗GPT한테 한번 물어볼게요. 챗GPT 활용을 하면은 공부하는데 굉장히 좋습니다. 이 사람 같은 경우는 모바일 기술, 최신 기술 분야에 풍부한 경험을 가진 공인된 기업 경영자다. 그래서 영국 케임브리지 대학교에서 물리학 학사 석사를 받았고 여러 기술 기업에서 CEO를 역임하면서 모바일 게임 컨텐츠 산업에서 두각을 나타냈다. 네,   네,  네, 2 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 링크드인으로도 좀 찾아보도록 하겠습니다. 어떤 사람인지. 링크드인으로 걸어서 뭐 누가 사는지는 나온 게 없습니다. 그냥 추측하고 있는 거죠. 이 사람 같은 경우는 굉장히 많은 기업들을 거쳤네요. 몬스터 맙 그룹 CEO, 핸섬 모바일 CEO, 글로 모바일 CEO, 이센셜 프로덕스 회장, 레지디오 CEO, 글로 모바일 CEO. 네, 그리고 아이온큐에서는 21년 9월부터 이사회 멤버로 참여를 하고 있었고, 지금 또 DMI 그룹에서 상장시킨 각종 기업들에서 이사로 활동을 하고 있죠. 지금 담당하고 있는 회사가 여러 개가 있는데, 그쵸. 이 사람은 아무래도 과거에는 좀 기술력을 가진 회사 CEO였는지 모르겠는데, 최근의 모습을 보면은 이제 보통 스펙을 하는 회사들의 특징이 돈이 될 만한 좋은 아이템을 가진 회사들을 키워주는 역할인데, 제가 본 게 3분기가 아직 안 나왔네요. 네네. EPS 지금 뜬 데 있나요? 네. 아무리 봐도 이거는 합병 준비를 하는 걸로 보이네요. 그래서 뭐 언제 얼마에 합병시킬지는 모르겠지만, 뭐 우리가 기대했던 것만큼 뭐 10배, 100배까지는 못 갈 수 있겠죠. 당연히 인수합병을 단기간에 시키면. 그래도 인수합병을 하게 되면 보통 작은 기업은 프리미엄이 붙으니까, 글쎄요, 얼마에 인수합병 될지는 모르겠지만 프리미엄이 붙을 거니까 한번 지켜봐야 될 것 같고요. 제 생각이 틀릴 수도 있죠. 그래서 요거는 일단은 제 개인적인 뇌피셜입니다. 이거는 저기 가봐야 될 것 같은데. 네, 텍사스 이전 예정 후 될 인수합병 얘기는 제가 했죠. 그래서 인수합병을 할 만한 후보 중에 제일 유력한 게 대리입니다. 그래서 이력 같은 경우는 피터 제프맨 CEO도 양적 컴퓨터랑 큰 연관 없었죠. 그래서 이제 이해를 해보면 피터 제프맨은 작은 회사를 키워서 엑시트를 많이 해본 경험자인데, 이제 그 사람이 아이온큐를 5년 6년 동안 맡아서 지금까지 키워온 거고, 니콜로 디마시가 들어온다는 건 이 사람이 이제 돈을 움직이는 그런 영향력이 있는 사람이기 때문에, 아마 이제 회사를 조금 더 부풀려서, 뭐 나쁘게 말하면 부풀리는 거고, 좋게 말하면 이제 성과를 더 잘 보이게 만들어서, 잘 예쁘게 만들어서 인수합병을 시키려는 시도로 보입니다. 일단은 이 사람은 돈에 밝은 사람이기 때문에. 근데 뭐 그게 굳이 나쁜 건가요? 회사를 크게 만들어가지고 좋은 가격에 팔아주면 주주들한테는 좋은 거기 때문에 뭐 저는 여러 가지 시나리오 중에 하나라고 항상 말씀을 드렸죠. 혼자 커지면 제일 좋지만 결국에는 2, 3년 내에 엔비디아나 뭐 구글, 아마존, 델 이런 데서 결국에는 인수합병 경쟁이 일어날 거다. 그래서 아이온큐도 그 흐름을 보고 지금 준비하는 것 같아요. 결국에는 큰 회사가 사주면은 이 회사의 이사진들이나 임원들한테는 가장 좋은 엑시 시나리오이기 때문에. 네, 그래서 뭐 인수합병 후보 중에서는 델이 가장 강력하고 이미 이사진에 델 관련 인사들이 많이 앉아 있죠. 그래서 제가 그것도 최근에 말씀을 드렸는데 그게 어디 있을까? 여기 있죠. 자, 지금 이사진 중에 3명이 델과 관련된 인물이었는데 일단 해리 유는 나갔죠. 이 사람은 DMI 회장인데 나간 상황이고, 빌 스카넬 같은 경우는 아예 델의 영업 조직의 사장입니다. 그리고 웬디 토마스는 델의 자회사인 사이버 보안 기업인 스퀘어웍스의 CEO이기 때문에 이 두 사람이 지금 아이온큐의 이사회에 앉아 있고, 또 델의 창립자인 마이클 사울델도 아이온큐에 투자를 했었을 만큼 관심이 있죠. 둘이 같이 하이브리드 컴퓨팅도 하고 있어서 델이 가장 유력하지 않을까 생각을 했고, 또 다음으로는 아마존이 아직 아이온큐 주식을 가지고 있죠. 정확하게는 주식이 아니라 주식으로 바꿀 수 있는 권리를 가지고 있습니다. 그래서 아마존이 제 기억으로는 한 400만 주인가를 가지고 있었던 걸로 기억하는데, 한번 봐볼까요? 그쵸. 지금 아직도 거의 4%에 달하는 워런트를 가지고 있죠. 830만 주. 그래서 델 아니면 아마존이 아닐까라고 추측하고 있었는데 니콜로 디마시로 바뀌면서 이러면 인수합병을 대비하고 있구나라고 생각을 해볼 수 있을 것 같아요. 자, 그리고 이제 30분에 시작한다고 하니까 잠깐 기다려 보도록 하겠습니다. 자, 그리고 잠깐 또 제가 요새 관심을 가지고 있는 마라톤 홀딩스 실적이 나왔다고 하는데 한번 이쪽도 봐볼게요. 여기는 주가가 오르고 있네요. 그래서 이 회사 같은 경우는 한번 찾아보겠습니다. 30분에 시작하니까 기다렸다가 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to IonQ's fourth quarter and full year 2024 earnings call. I'm the Vice President of Financial Planning and Analysis and Head of Investor Relations here at IonQ. I'm pleased to be joined on today's call by Peter Chapman, IonQ's Executive Chair, Niccolo de Masi, our new President and Chief Executive Officer, Thomas Kramer, our Chief Financial Officer, and Dean Kassman, our Senior Vice President of Engineering and Technology. By now, everyone should have access to the company's fourth quarter and full year 2024 earnings press release issued this afternoon, which is available on the Investor Relations section of our website at investors.ionq.com. Please note that on today's call, management will refer to adjusted EBITDA, which is a non-GAAP financial measure. While the company believes this non-GAAP financial measure provides useful information for investors, the presentation of this information is not intended to be considered in isolation or as a substitute for the financial information presented in accordance with GAAP. You are directed to our press release for a reconciliation of adjusted EBITDA to its closest comparable GAAP measure. During the call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our 10-K that we have filed with the SEC today. We undertake no obligation to revise any statements to reflect changes that occur after this call, except as required by law. Now, I will turn it over to Peter Chapman, Executive Chair of IonQ. Peter?
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you to everyone listening. If you take away one thing from this call, let it be this: 2024 was IonQ's best year ever. But we believe 2025 is slated to be the year IonQ drives an inflection in the quantum market. In 2024, we grew our full-year bookings by 47% to $95.6 million and nearly doubled our revenue, achieving $43.1 million for the year and $11.7 million for the fourth quarter, both exceeding the high end of our guidance range. To continue our rapid growth rate, last quarter we announced our acquisition of substantially all the assets of quantum networking leader Qubitekk, Inc., which we have since closed. Our interest in quantum networking is multifaceted. It enables IonQ to scale its quantum computers by enabling distributed quantum computing in much the same way classical CPUs and GPUs are networked together today. Our unique architecture allows us to interface with existing telecommunication networks and real-world environments. The second facet is to build the next generation of the Internet, which is secure from the potential threat of classical and quantum computers. Today, I am thrilled to announce that IonQ has signed a definitive agreement to acquire a controlling stake in ID Quantique, a large global player in quantum networking. Once the deal closes, IonQ will consolidate ID Quantique's global book of business, more than 100 team members, and gain control of almost 300 quantum networking patents and patent applications. In aggregate, IonQ will shortly control nearly 900 patents and patent applications across quantum key distribution, quantum sensing, quantum networking, and quantum computing. With ID Quantique, IonQ furthers its leadership in quantum networking. Our goal is to build a suite of products that enable secure quantum communication in all forms, from satellites to ground stations, across existing telecommunication fiber infrastructure to drones on a battlefield. Those following IonQ closely will note that we are building out the key component technologies for the telecom and defense sectors. With the pending addition of ID Quantique and the completed addition of Qubitekk, we will partner with their existing blue-chip customers, which include SK Telecom and the Electric Power Board of Chattanooga. These customer relationships allow us to test new hardware and applications in real-world environments. Switching gears to computing, we delivered our first Forte enterprise system to Quantum Basel in Switzerland, as well as our first system to the Air Force Research Lab. IonQ continues to make progress on developing our next-generation barium-based system called Tempo, with the first unit already sold and slated for delivery to Basel. During our Q3 earnings call, we spoke about our partnership with AstraZeneca on drug discovery use cases. Tonight, I can share that our work in chemistry modeling, in collaboration with other partners, has advanced significantly. We plan to showcase some of the progress before the next earnings call. With ANSYS, we are also continuing our collaboration with ANSYS and are making great progress in computer-aided engineering, a $10 billion industry. This quarter, we also announced a new partnership with General Dynamics Information Technology, a division of General Dynamics, to create quantum solutions that enhance fraud and anomaly detection by identifying irregularities in large data sets with greater speed and accuracy. Not only do these collaborations reflect how quantum is bringing value to businesses today, they are also emblematic of the breadth of impact that quantum computing will have as IonQ and our partners continue to develop more applications using Forte Enterprise in future systems. We continue to make progress against our technical roadmap and performance goals. We are reconfirming our confidence in achieving AQ64 by the end of this year, which will be demonstrated on our next generation barium-based system. Historically, AQ has been the best tool to measure performance across quantum systems. However, since its introduction, quantum applications and compiler technology have been progressing so rapidly that benchmarks defined only 4 years ago can no longer reflect our true pace of innovation and future system capabilities. By the end of this year, we will demonstrate our AQ64 system capable of circa 3,000 high-quality gate operations. As we gear up for the era of commercial advantage, we will deprecate AQ as a measure of technical progress in favor of a new set of benchmarks. These new metrics will be closely aligned with our customers' application success and will be accompanied by an updated computing and networking roadmap to match it. Before we turn it over to Thomas for our financials, I want to take a moment to discuss an exciting announcement we made today regarding the future of our leadership team. Our board has appointed Niccolo de Masi as President and Chief Executive Officer, while I continue my leadership as Executive Chair. This evolution will allow me to spend more time focused on our strategic customer relationships and the development of quantum AI. Niccolo is originally a physicist and has twice been a public company CEO and a key member of our team since we went public. He has made important contributions to our strategic direction and growth initiatives as a director. We are confident that Niccolo's track record of expertise, insights, and leadership will further enable IonQ to accelerate our growth. Today, we are also welcome a new director to IonQ, Gabrielle Toledano. Gabrielle is the former Chief People Officer of Tesla. She has held senior roles at Electronic Arts, Siebel Systems, Microsoft, and Oracle. She brings a wealth of experience as an executive on everything from organizational growth to executive compensation. Both of these leadership announcements optimally position IonQ for continued success in the quantum era and quantum AI and quantum commercial advantage. With that, I'll hand this over to Nicola for a brief introduction.
Thank you, Peter, for the kind words. I'm excited to join the team full-time for what I view as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to continue scaling the world's first publicly traded pure-play quantum company. As many people know, I've been a quantum computing enthusiast for 25 years, ever since I was both an undergrad and grad physics student at Cambridge University. Early in my career, I worked on novel next-generation solar cells, and I've long believed in the importance of quantum computing to truly realize the advantage in things like renewable energy. I've been a longtime supporter of IonQ's work, both in my role as a director of the last 5 years and as an original sponsor of IonQ's pioneering IPO. We have plenty of groundbreaking work ahead, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity to lead IonQ during this pivotal moment for both quantum computing and quantum networking. I've long believed that the mid-2020s will be when quantum computing begins to impact virtually every aspect of applied science, from chemistry to materials, national security, logistics, and financial services. Quantum networking is expected to be an equally large and impactful market opportunity, and IonQ is well positioned here to be the global leader. I'm honored by Peter and the board's confidence in me, and look forward to working with our industry-leading team to build upon our momentum in 2025 and beyond. Thomas, I'll turn it over to you now to walk through our financials in some more depth.
Thank you, Nicola, and thank you to everyone joining us today. Let's walk through this quarter's financial results in more detail. As Peter mentioned, we had an excellent fourth quarter, recognizing $11.7 million in revenue. For the full year, we ended up with $43.1 million in revenue, above the high end of our updated guidance range and up 95% year over year. We had $22.9 million in bookings in the fourth quarter and ended the year with $95.6 million in total bookings, which was also above the high end of our updated guidance range for 2024 and up over 46% year over year. Moving down the income statement. For the fourth quarter 2024, our total operating costs and expenses were $89.2 million, up 47% from $60.6 million in the prior year period. For the full year 2024, that number was $275.5 million, up 53% from $179.8 million in 2023. To break this down further, our research and development costs for the fourth quarter were $40.1 million, up 27% from $31.6 million in the prior year period. For the full year 2024, that number was $136.8 million, up 48% from $92.3 million in 2023. Recall that we are investing heavily in R&D and are investing in the production of our various product lines to meet projected customer demand. Our sales and marketing costs in the fourth quarter were $8.9 million, up 28% from $7 million in the prior year period. For the full year 2024, that number was $28.4 million, up 55% from $18.3 million in the full year 2023. This increase was due to us growing our go-to-market function as we continue the investment in our commercialization efforts, and we expect that trend to continue as we further expand our sales initiatives. Our general and administrative costs in the fourth quarter were $29.7 million, up 94% from $15.3 million in the prior year period. For the full year 2024, that number was $71.1 million, up 40% from $50.7 million in the full year 2023. Stock-based compensation was $106.9 million for the full year 2024, up from $69.7 million in the full year 2023. All of this resulted in a net loss of $202 million in the fourth quarter, compared to $41.9 million in the prior year period, and a net loss of $331.6 million for the full year 2024 versus $157.8 million in 2023. It is important to note that these results include a non-cash loss of $128.5 million for the fourth quarter related to the change in fair value of our warrant liabilities and $117.1 million in non-cash loss for the full year 2024. We saw an adjusted EBITDA loss for the fourth quarter of $32.8 million compared to a $20 million loss in the prior year period, and a loss of $107.2 million for the full year 2024 versus $77.7 million for 2023. Note that we projected an adjusted EBITDA loss for the full year 2024 of $110.5 million, once again beating our expected plan. Turning now to our balance sheet. Cash, cash equivalents, and investments as of December 31st, 2024, were $363.8 million. I'm excited to share that IonQ is launching a $500 million at-the-market facility to equip IonQ with an even larger war chest. We plan to use the proceeds to accelerate our networking business and create new lines of growth in promising application areas. As the initial amount we raised when we went public was largely sufficient for the computing business, we believe that this new amount of capital will provide us with a critical mass of capital for advancing in the quantum networking and communications business. Our capital needs are finite, and this is a unique moment for long-term investors to build a position at scale as we gear up for the era of quantum advantage. We are generating a strong foundation for what we expect will be another incredible year for IonQ. We aim to continue our growth once again in 2025. We are projecting revenue of between $75 million to $95 million for the full year and $7 million to $8 million in Q1. Our guidance includes all organic momentum and inorganic activity. Because of the early stage of the company's sales organization and the time it takes to turn a sale into revenue, we created the bookings metric back in 2021 to allow investors to gauge our progress. With revenue expected to be in the nine figures next year, 2026, we are sunsetting bookings guidance. We will, of course, continue to update the market on significant commercial milestones. Additionally, we anticipate an adjusted EBITDA loss of $120 million for the full year 2025 at the midpoint of our revenue guidance. And with that, I would like to turn the call back over to Peter for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Thomas. Historically, Q1 is a bit of a slow time for IonQ, but this year we've had a strong start. We closed our Qubitekk acquisition and announced the pending acquisition of a majority stake in ID Quantique today. Looking forward, there are some important events for investors to watch out for. First, look out for Quantum Day at NVIDIA's GTC conference. DARPA will announce Phase 1 awards for its quantum benchmarking initiatives, potentially worth $300 million. Investors should be following the legislative updates from the state of Maryland on a potential $1 billion initiative to make Maryland the capital of quantum. Congressional budget approval for fiscal year 2025. And lastly, the DOE Quantum Leadership Act, a $2.5 billion bill advancing through the Senate that seems to have bipartisan support. Along with UNESCO, we believe that 2025 will in fact be the year of quantum, one in which you see both public and private institutions realize that computing and networking game will be forever changed by IonQ systems. With commercial advantage right around the corner, the inflection point that everyone has been waiting for is not far behind it. And with that, operator, I would like to open the line for questions.
Thank you. We'll now be conducting a question and answer session. If you'd like to ask a question, please press star 1 from your telephone keypad, and a confirmation tone will indicate your line is in the question queue. You may press star 2 to remove yourself from the queue. For participants using speaker equipment, it may be necessary to pick up the handset before pressing the star keys. One moment, please, for our first question. Thank you. Our first question comes from the line of David Williams with Benchmark Company. Please proceed with your questions.
Hey, good afternoon, and thanks for taking my questions. And first, congratulations, Niccolo, for the CEO role. And Peter, we certainly enjoyed our time with you. So with that, I guess, are there any strategic changes we should be thinking about as we move forward in terms of just how you anticipate the business maybe running or changing here, Niccolo?
I'm going to jump in here first, just to let you know, I'm not actually going anywhere. So you'll probably even see me on future earnings calls and all the rest. So, this change from my perspective is one where this is a big job and there's just too much to do, especially for this company. If you look at all the things we have on in applications, we're building a new business in networking, and quantum computing itself is really hard enough. So I think what we're doing here is Niccolo's coming on board to be able to offload some of the work, in part because the primary reason I came to IonQ was to work on quantum AI. And so I'm also hoping this will free up some time for me to work on that as well, more than I've been able to do so far. So it is a change, but it's not. I'm not going anywhere. So just as an FYI. But I'll leave it to Niccolo.
Yeah, so let me just add to that. Hi, nice to meet you, and thank you for the support over the years. Look, this is a bandwidth expansion for Peter. Peter and I have worked closely together since actually before the IPO, and I proudly have been, I think, one of his most contributory and active board members the last few years. And so, the opportunity to work with Peter full time is obviously one that the board thought made a lot of sense. There's a lot of continuity, and there's obviously an opportunity for the two of us to tackle two businesses which are growing, at inflection points that are truly historic. So to answer your question in a nutshell, no, there's no changes in strategic direction, because Peter and I have been working together closely to set the strategic direction the last 5 years, and we'll continue to do that.
Fantastic, great.
I hope to give up some parts of my job that I don't like Niccolo's going to go do the TV interviews tomorrow.
There we go.
So.
No, that's well understood. Thank you. And then maybe just secondly, you've made a nice acquisition last quarter. You've closed Qubitekk, and you've announced the ID Quantique this quarter. Just kind of curious how we should be thinking about going forward, just kind of the consolidation that we should anticipate, and then maybe what are these patents? 900 patents is significant. How do you think this helps you longer term, and just anything around the strategy from a consolidation or M&A perspective? Thank you.
Yeah, so this is Niccolo. We obviously care about the patent portfolio. We've been focused on this since the IPO. I think when I first met Peter, we had a low double-digit number of patents, and so it's an investment that we make continually. We make it organically, and we make it inorganically as well. We obviously view the quantum space as we head into the era of commercial advantage to be one that is becoming a bigger company's game, if you will. And so that is both a defensive mode and potentially an offensive one to a greater or lesser extent here in both computing and networking. As you've heard, in prior calls, there are obviously significant synergies between the networking and the computing business, particularly around our advances and our patents around photonic interconnects. So whilst we have done networking to some extent organically and internally, we're of course accelerating this with Qubitekk and ID Quantique. We're gonna aim to, of course, get the best out of both worlds here as we integrate these acquisitions. IDQ is bringing us not just patents capabilities, but it's bringing us, of course, new geographies. And so we will be using these as bases to expand both businesses, both in Europe and Asia and the Middle East, where we've already got our organic presence. So lots of work to do, but we're excited about both the patent position, the team, and quality, and we'll continue, of course, doing our best to attract world-class talent into both sides of the computing and networking halves of the house.
Great. Thanks again, and best of luck.
Our next question is from the line of Richard Shannon with Craig-Hallum. Please proceed with your questions.
Hi, everyone. This is Tyler on for Richard, and thank you for taking my questions. And congrats, Nicolo and Peter. I'm happy you're sticking around at least. How should we think about the timing and market size of the networking market, and when could we start seeing top-line impacts from these acquisitions?
So I think that we are. Sorry about that. I misplaced my microphone. Thanks for that question. We are already seeing the impact of our acquisitions. In fact, the first acquisition we made in 2023 is already deeply ingrained in our technology and is a core part of how we design our systems today. We are also seeing the effect of our partnership and acquisition of Qubitekk, where we're already going together to service our clients. And we expect to see the same from IDQ soon, although I should say that we're not acquiring the entire company. We have a majority part of their equity now.
And I was just going to add that that the outside date for ID Quantique is in September. And so in terms of its impact this year, it won't be as great as it will be next year. So.
Yeah, no, it's exactly. And all I could throw in here as a new guy on the team here is that I've watched IonQ organically grow into networking because customers, both strategic partners and governments, are of course demanding it, right? So we've been at it organically. We've been increasing our investment inorganically, and I think I'm delighted to be joining a firm that has already the leading position from almost every metric, including of course the patent perspective I could hope for.
And I'll just add a little bit more too, in the sense that for quantum computing, no matter what the qubit methodology that is used, to be able to get to scale, you have to network them together. And so where most companies are today is they're still focused on chip. But the next horizon beyond that is to be able to network together systems, QPU to QPU. And here we are building a strong patent portfolio, a moat, if you will, in controlling that market. And so, as well as opening up, the TAM for a new market, which is now the quantum internet. So it's quite synergistic with quantum computing.
Okay, and then specifics on the technologies that were acquired. You said you only took some of the company. Were you interested in the QRNG? There's some timing instrumentation in there. Is there anything on frequency conversion? What drew you to ID Quantique?
Yeah, no, it's all of the above. Some of it is obviously opening up a new market for us, and the others, the underlying technology. There's bits and pieces that we have interested in our own systems as well. Things like single photon detectors and all sorts, those kinds of things. There's quite a bit of overlap between the two technologies in terms of their markets. So it was those as well, but honestly, it was also we're excited. Both Qubitekk and ID Quantique have been going after a different market, which is quantum networking and building a secure quantum internet. And we're just as excited about that market as well. And we pick up for the first time here some new areas. It's the third area of quantum, which is quantum sensing. So we'll pick up some technology in that area as well. And if quantum sensing is going to take off, it's going to need quantum networking. So we're kind of covering the bases, if you will.
Just to be clear that we've purchased the supermajority, so we will be consolidating them when it closes.
Exactly.
Okay, and I'll step out of line for now, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
The next questions are from the line of Alex Platt with D.A. Davidson. Please proceed with your questions.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question, and congratulations on Nicolo on the new role and Peter on the transition. I actually wanted to ask about something you sort of announced last week, which is the sort of completion of this next step with XHV technology. In a blog post, you mentioned you're able to materially reduce energy consumption and computational energy costs with this innovation. So I guess could you maybe give us a better idea for where energy consumption was at prior to this, sort of just as like a baseline, and then where we could think of it now? Also, maybe how this compares to other systems on the market. Thanks.
Thanks, Alex. This is Dean Castman, running kind of engineering and technology here. So the XHV post kind of highlighted the fact is as we drive our technology roadmap, as we are investing in basically non-cryogenically enhanced vacuum systems, we have an ability to, one, reduce the overall footprint, the size, weight, and power. Right now, the ability to drive that overall piece down drives down energy consumption of the systems. Right now, trapped ions in their current state, even in our current systems, have one of the overall lowest costs per use from a scaling perspective in terms of the amount of computational output you get versus the amount of energy that you put in. So as we think about scaling qubit count, trapped ions and our systems scale linearly. Other systems and other modalities and GPUs, for example, scale exponentially. And so the overall quantum computing offers a huge advantage from an energy scaling perspective. XHV just adds to that. And so the overall effort we have in the roadmap and the technology is simplification of the engineering design and better scaling.
And I'll just add a little bit on top of this, which is, today there's a great deal of focus on different qubit modalities and their pros and cons, but it will get to a point where it's about cost per qubit. And ultimately, if one vendor, such as IonQ, can produce a room temperature qubit, that will have significant cost advantages compared to others that have to get down to near 0 degrees. And not just in quantum computing, but also in quantum networking as well. Because the last thing you want to do is to put cryogenic systems all over the globe. That would be prohibitively expensive to do. So it's all about our long-term plans to win here. So it's about reducing our cost per qubit into the future.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. As a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, you may press star 1. The next question is from the line of Shadi Mitwalli with Craig-Hallum. Please proceed with your question.
Hey guys, this is Shadi on for Quinn Bolton at Needham. Congrats on the solid year, and Nicola, congrats on being appointed to CEO. My first question is on the acquisition of IDQ. How does the acquisition fit into IonQ's portfolio, especially with your guys' previous acquisition of Qubitekk? And then can you talk about the similarities and differences in technology between IDQ and Qubitekk?
It's a great question. So there's a couple of things here. There is some overlap between them, and then there's pieces that each company has that the other doesn't. So we think there's areas for collaboration between the two groups and areas where we can reduce our expenses by reducing the engineering investments going forward. But as we did mention, we are at the moment have a majority stake in IDQ. So, we do have to be careful of minority shareholder interests going forward. But, it is obviously brings the two companies much closer together. And really, honestly, I think creates a powerhouse in quantum networking of kind of taking the two companies that had the largest revenue that we knew of and bringing them together with IonQ.
I can speak a little bit from a hardware perspective. This is Dean again. And so both Qubitekk as well as ID Quantique have deployed quantum networks. Qubitekk has a network that's deployed in Chattanooga as part of EPB there in the city. That's a user network where you can plug different quantum computing devices into the network for development and testing. IDQ has deployed quantum-safe networks around the world. They have implementations in Singapore. There's other networks in South Korea, and they also have kind of projects in Europe. And so they both are in kind of the overall just the quantum network deployment game. From a core technology, they both offer QKD solutions. Those solutions rely on slightly different hardware technologies. They have slightly different protocols and software stacks. Qubitekk does not have quantum random number generation. IDQ does. IDQ also has been able to manufacture and engineer component technology in their single nanowire photon detectors, and have made that as part of their business. In fact, those photon detection systems are used in many different products. We use them here internally for other work that we're doing on the quantum computing. And so from an overall technology stack, there are some things that are very similar, but there's also things that are quite different and that we'll be looking at as we move forward.
And all I'd add to that is obviously Qubitekk, had a great U.S. customer base. IDQ is bringing us Europe. They're bringing us obviously significant partnership with SK Telecom that we also announced today. And we think that the forward-looking nature of markets like Korea on the next generation secure internet is going to be obviously fortuitous and lead to much prosperity for our networking business in that market. Qubitekk brought us about 118 patents granted and pending, and IDQ's brought us nearly 300. So it's quite a powerhouse of networking moat, as Peter mentioned, globally.
Got it. That makes sense. And then my follow-up is on the revenue guidance for 2025. It's implying very strong year-over-year growth. Can you guys give some of the puts and takes for the revenue guidance, especially with Q1 guidance in mind? It seems like this will be more back half weighted. Then maybe how much of this will be hardware sales versus QCA or development revenue? Thanks.
So it is correct that it will be more in the back half. Traditionally, Q1 has been a little weaker than other quarters for us, but we have a very strong pipeline, and we now have several product areas that we expect to be able to benefit from. And we really look forward to being able to go to market now with a much fuller set of solutions than when we're only selling compute.
Got it. Thanks for all the color, and congrats on the solid year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is in the line of Richard Shannon, Craig-Hallum. Please proceed with your question.
Hi, guys. Thanks for letting me ask another question. So you mentioned South Korea or just Korea in general. Do you plan on expanding that product into the EU and the US, QRNG product?
I think it's a little early to do kind of where do we want to take which products. We're still, we need to complete the acquisition as well. But what I would say is, and Niccolo kind of signposted to this, which is in the current marketplace, having multiple geographic locations allows us to go into a market, especially if the world is becoming more nationalistic. And we think that the ID Quantique will enable that because it is a European, Swiss, and South Korean, company. They have a number of employees in both locations, and they have strong relationship with companies in South Korea as well. So, so I think in that sense, it's kind of de-risking a little bit of the current potential things which are going on kind of globally, and make sure that we're not just a U.S. company now, but now a European and South Korean company as well. And so we think those things, and now we need to do, it also, depending on what happens with tariffs, well, now you could decide to do manufacturing in different locations and deal with those things in that way as well. So it just kind of helps in a global footprint. We'll also be picking up salespeople, obviously, who have been quite successful. And then the next thing is, what kind of co-selling can we do? How can we take advantage of each other's unique advantages? But that's still work ahead of us.
All right, that sounds great. And could you guys give us any guidance on what you expect gross margins and OpEx to look like throughout the year?
So we are not ready to give guidance on that. What we have seen in the past is that we've been lucky enough to benefit from some large government contracts. These tend to have slightly lower gross margin because you're not mass producing a product. But what it does is it pays for R&D that goes into actually generating our next generation of products. So we expect that as the market moves further and further into enterprise commercialization, that the gross margins will start trending up in the positive direction quite a lot. So we saw in the past when we were selling just compute, and whenever we've had a majority of enterprise customers, the gross margin's been around 75, 77%, and we expect it to go back there. But in the meantime, we also know that we are saving a lot on R&D by taking up projects with customers who are looking into the same areas that we are looking into and that we think are crucial for the development of quantum computing and quantum networking over the longer term.
As an example of that, we have a contract with AFRL to build an optical switch. And so the margin on that one might not be as good, but we're working with them to build that, and they're helping pay for the development cost, which we would have otherwise paid for directly out of our pocket. So we don't use the same lens, if you will, that we would in terms of a product that we're kind of shipping in volume. Hopefully that helps.
That does. Do you guys have any insight as to any expected milestones or just cadence of revenue recognition for those contracts?
Which contract are we talking about? The AFRL contract?
I mean, we could go on an overall basis if you don't want to break anything out.
So overall, our contracts tend to come in different flavors. We will do projects that are application-minded. They tend to be on a 6 to 18-month platform. And if there are contracts that we have with entities such as AFRL, these have been on 18 months, but sometimes up to 48 months, which was the large $54.5 million contract we announced last year. So it all depends on which project that we're looking at. If we sell a system, the lead time on delivering a system is around 12 to 18 months. We expect that to go closer to 12 and even shorter as we get more volume up.
Awesome. Thank you guys, and congrats on the quarter.
Thank you.
Our next question is from David Williams with Benchmark Company. Please proceed with your questions.
Hey, thanks for taking the follow-up here. I wanted to ask a little bit. I think this first quarter we haven't heard. You mentioned kind of the pipeline strength of hardware sales, but I imagine that's still fairly healthy. Just any color on what you're seeing in terms of the hardware sales and any activity around that, I think would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Peter. I can help with that. So it's a particularly busy time right now. And when we say hardware sales here, I'm going to assume you mean compute in quantum computers. And I will just mention, too, it seems to me that from what I can see on the networking side versus the compute side, the networking side doesn't seem to be quite as lumpy. It seems to be a lot more sales in smaller dollar amounts, which is nice because it kind of offsets the lumpiness of the quantum compute side, which is, that will be nice just going forward. I'll be looking forward to not having to say, and our sales are lumpy. So on the compute side, things are right now a really interesting time. There's a bunch of RFPs we're competing in, and for systems, and we'll know in the next couple of months, I guess probably within 6 to 9 months, whether or not those systems will be awarded to us. And so, I don't think the world has kind of quite picked up, but internationally, there's quite a bit right now which is going on in the quantum compute side and up for grabs. And then I mentioned also at the close of the kind of the remarks, some of the things that are going on in terms of the quantum compute marketplace that I think is fairly large events. The DARPA benchmarking initiative, is a huge award per company. And so those things have the potential to have an outsized impact.
Okay, great. Great color there. And then maybe just one last one, if I may, on the $500 million that you announced today. Is that targeted for anything in particular, or is it more just about having the dry powder as you move forward here and not have constraints around your OpEx trends?
It's really twofold. One is to we see an entirely new TAM, which is in quantum networking, and so it's supporting that. We have said that will be the first business that becomes cash flow positive for us, and I can see that happening not too far off in the future. The other aspect, which is just as exciting, is our applications business. The work we're doing with ANSYS and AstraZeneca and some other things we haven't announced yet are compelling businesses unto themselves, and that have the potential to generate billions of dollars. But we just didn't have the resources to do quantum computing, quantum networking, chemistry applications, optimization. There's just if you go on quantum AI, each one of these things unfortunately needs its own investment to be successful. And so while we had sufficient funds to do the quantum computing side, we didn't have the funds to be a leading player in some of these application areas, or again in the networking space. So that's where this money is going to get used.
Always great color. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
I will say, we thought about going out and doing venture for some of these and doing some of as one way, but that means you're giving up a piece of the action in exchange for that, and we're pretty excited about what the future holds for some of these other markets that we're going into.
Thank you. At this time, I'll turn the floor back to Peter Chapman for closing remarks.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you for joining the call. I just want to say thank you, as I always do at this time, to the company and to our investors and everyone that supports us. This work wouldn't happen without the hard work of all of our employees and also the management team. And so just thank you. Thanks for a great 2024, and we look forward to a fantastic 2025. And thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thank you. This does conclude today's conference. You may disconnect your lines at this time. We thank you for your participation.
자, 이제 끝났는데 이제 어닝콜을 우리가 듣는 이유는 뉴스로 나오는 글자 외의 것들을 느낄 수 있기 때문이죠. 그래서 내용을 좀 봤더니 애널리스트들도 피터 챕맨이 CEO에서 내려올 것을 생각을 못했던 거죠. 그래서 새로운 CEO가 임명이 됐는데 어떤 변화가 있을 거냐라고 물어봤더니 피터 챕맨이 그만두는 게 아니라 아이온큐 이사회 의장으로 활동을 할 거고 앞으로 미래의 실적 발표 어닝콜에도 나올 예정이다 라고 얘기를 했기 때문에 일단 얘기는 그렇게 하고 있어요. 본인이 해야 될 일이 너무 많아서 일단 그런 행정적인 거나 경영적인 거는 이제 돈을 잘 만지고 경험이 있는 전문 경영인인 니콜로 디마시한테 넘기고, 나는 양자 어플리케이션과 양자 네트워킹 같은 새로운 기술 분야에 집중을 하겠다. 특히 양자 AI에 집중할 예정이다라고 해서 어떻게 될지는 모르겠어요. 그래서 이것도 한번 지켜봐야 될 것 같은데, 김정선 교수님 퇴사하실 때도 과학 고문으로 계시다가 이제 백 뒤로 빠진 거죠. 그래서 그분 같은 경우는 지금 듀크 양자센터에서 부센터장으로 근무하시면서 거기서 나오는 연구 결과를 이제 아이온큐가 가져가고 있는데, 이 피터 챕맨이 큰 변화가 없다는 게 과연 그런 방식의 변화가 없다는 건지, 아니면 진짜 이사회 의장으로 남아서 좀 더 큰 전략의 신사업에 집중을 할 건지, 그거는 우리가 정확하게 알 수 없죠. 이거는 지켜봐야 될 것 같고요. 어쨌거나 중요한 것은 큰 이런 임원 변환이 있었지만, 뭐 인터뷰 같은 건 이제 니콜라 디마시가 나갈 거다라고 하네요. 피터 챕맨은 좀 전략이나 기술적인 부분에 집중을 할 거고, 중요한 거는 그러면 뭐 일단 인력은 바뀔 건데 회사가 잘하고 있느냐이죠. 그래서 새로운 회사들을 인수하면서 아이온큐 특허가 한 600, 700개 정도 됐는데, 이제 아이디 퀀티크와 이 큐비텍을 인수하게 되면서 특허가 900개로 늘어난다고 합니다. 그래서 특허가 굉장히 중요한데, 이제 양자 분야가 상업적인 가치를 창출하는 단계에 진입을 하고 있단 말이죠. 그래서 쉽게 말해서 더 큰 기업들 간의 이 전쟁터가 됐는데, 여기서 이기려면은 더 많은 특허가 필요하다는 거죠. 그래서 양자 컴퓨터는 아이온큐가 전체적으로 하고 있지만, 양자 네트워킹을 하는 데 있어서 아이디 퀀티크와 큐비텍 같은 뛰어난 회사들 인수를 통해서 새로운 지역들의 고객들까지 커버하게 된다는 거죠. 그래서 큐비텍 같은 경우는 미국 베이스인데, 아이디 퀀티크는 유럽과 한국 베이스죠. 그래서 더 넓은 지역을 커버해서 거기를 공략해서 추가 매출을 내겠다라고 얘기를 했고요. 그래서 뭐 일단 제가 초반에는 저도 이제 조금 심리적으로 많이 흔들려서 회사를 팔려나 이런 생각을 했는데, 이 어닝콜을 들으면서 내 생각이 잘못됐을 수도 있겠다. 뭐 물론 인수합병을 대비하는 것일 수도 있는데, 음, 임원들 말에 의하면 일단은 양자 컴퓨터뿐만 아니라 양자 네트워킹 비즈니스에 집중을 하기 위해서 이제 임원들의 역할도 나누게 된 거고, 아이디 퀀티크라는 회사를 인수하게 됐다. 그래서 5억 불 규모의 유상증자를 이제 한 번에 발행해서 시장에 던지는 게 아니라, ATM 방식은 뭐냐면 조금씩 조금씩 티가 안 나게 이 주가에 큰 영향이 없게 푸는 방식인데, 그거를 통해서 네, 돈을 이제 받아오면은 뭘 할 거냐, 양자 네트워킹과 양자 어플리케이션 개발에 쓰겠다라고 했죠. 그래서 지금 현금이 많이 소진되지 않았습니다. 한 분기 2천만 달러밖에 안 썼는데, 이미 이 적자 폭이 크지만 그만큼 매출이 늘어나고 있으면서, 그렇기 때문에 현금성 자산이 크게 달진 않았는데, 그럼에도 유상증자를 하는 이유는 양자 컴퓨터는 혼자 할 수 있는데 양자 네트워킹이라는 새로운 시장에는 전문 역량이 필요하기 때문에, 그런 역량 확보에 유상증자를 해서 돈을 쓰겠다라고 얘기를 했습니다. 네, 그리고 제가 최근에 영상에서 언급했던 이제 미 고등 연구 방위계획국 다르파에서 양자 이 벤치마크 프로그램을 하고 있는데, 여기서 통과하는 기업들한테 지원금을 많이 줍니다. 그래서 객관적으로 이 기업이 양자적으로 쓸모 있는가 없는가를 판별해 주는 건데, 이 얘기를 피로제품이 꺼냈죠. 즉 아이온큐가 여기 들어간다는 얘기로 보이는데, 여기서 또 지원금을 받아서 R&D 비용을 줄일 수 있을 건지 또 지켜봐야 될 것 같습니다. 뭐 어쨌거나 많은 분들이 힘들어하시고 저도 힘들죠. 이런 큰 인사 변동이 있을 때. 근데 사실 아이온큐가 아직은 상장한 지 4년밖에 되지 않은 굉장히 초창기 기업이기 때문에, 뭐 여러분들도 아시겠지만 기업이 상장해 가면서 인력 변동이나 이런 큰 변환이 있을 수밖에 없거든요. 그래서 저는 이제는 이 또한 지나가겠지라고 생각하면서, 뭐 물론 저도 김정상 교수님한테 굉장히 의지를 많이 했고 피로제프맨 CEO한테도 의지를 많이 했지만, 이제 사람을 보기보다는 이 회사의 특허나 인력 동향이나 매출 같은 거에 좀 집중을 하고 있어요. 그래서 매출 같은 경우는 지난 분기보다 줄었죠. 근데 지난 분기 매출이 특히 많았던 이유는 이 체결했던 계약들 중에 빠르게 달성이 되면서 크게 올라왔다라는 얘기를 했고요. 그래서 뭐 1분기, 한 분기 동안 좀 주춤을 했고 적자폭도 많이 늘었죠. 지금 투자를 굉장히 공격적으로 하면서 기술 개발하고 있기 때문에. 그래서 이번 분기 실적은 그렇게 만족스럽지 않습니다. 또 인사 변동도 굉장히 큰 거고 해서 아마 근데 이제 엔비디아의 GTC 첫날이 퀀텀 덱이잖아요. 그래서 거기서 어떤 얘기가 나오는지 또 다르파의 프로그램에 아이온큐가 들어가는지 이런 것들을 봐야 될 것 같고 2025년에 아까 예상 가이던스가 레베뉴 가이던스를 잠깐 보면은 2025년 가이던스 여기 볼까요? 75에서 95를 보고 있는데 inorganic revenue, 일단 요거는 제가 조금 더 공부를 해보고 공유를 드려야 될 것 같네요. 어쨌거나 오늘 역시 신생기업 투자는 쉽지가 않네요. 이제 여러분들도 많이 느끼실 텐데 지금 양자 분야가 그만큼 격변이 일어나고 있는 분야라서 제가 항상 말씀드리지만 제가 큰 비중으로 아이온큐에 투자한다고 똑같이 하시면 안 된다. 저는 그만큼 더 고생하고 힘들어하고 있기 때문에 여러분들도 지혜롭게 판단을 하시면 좋을 것 같고요. 64의 Q는 뭐 올해 안에 나온다고 하니까 한번 지켜봐야 될 것 같습니다. 자, 어쨌거나 오늘 모두 고생하셨고요. 제가 또 제 생각을 정리해보고 데이터들을 정리해서 영상 요약본으로 공유 드리도록 하겠습니다. 네, 모두 수고 많으셨고요. 오늘 하루도 좋은 하루 되시길 바랍니다. 감사합니다.